Alright, welcome back to today's mech highlight. Today we're looking at the Phantom, the PHN-E medium mech, 40 tons. Not usually my normal tonnage range, but you'll see why I picked this mech. First off, it is a clan mech, so we do have the normal clan quirk. It is also a distinct style of Omni mech, so our internals are non-modifiable. What I mean by that is ferrofibrous, can't replace it. Endo steel, can't replace it. Clan double heat sinks, can't replace it, even if I, would, which I wouldn't. We also do have an XL engine, equaling +2, and a 360 rated engine core that we cannot replace. In terms of firepower, this thing brings to the table 4 micropulses on each arm, so that's a combined total of 60 damage on each arm, 120 total in that Alpha Strike, and an additional 24 from ATMs. Now, my first observation about this mech was not actually the most important. My first observation is the standard, I don't have enough armor, and that's very true. But the more important observation is the movement speed on this thing. It's a 40-ton mech with a 360 rated engine. This thing can move at 11, 15. So move 11, sprint 15. That's absurd. That's stupid fast. Some of the fastest mechs I have that are spec'd, with a supercharger meant to go as quickly as they can, are topping out at 9 to 10 tiles on the sprint, let alone 11 on the move, right? So this is, as it's built right now, it's a light mech hunter killer. So basically, you move even faster than they do, and you bring all of these micropulses online. They ignore 6 pips of evasion, right? And that just shreds through whatever light mech is in front of you. I mean, consider if you were shooting at a Jenner, that thing, is going to lose at least 1 hit location from a full Alpha Strike from this thing. But as much as I do like this configuration, I don't think it's precisely what we need. So we're going to do a couple of things. First off, the ATM, way too heavy for the additional firepower it brings, 2.5 tons, because we have to bring ammo with it as well. So we're going to go ahead and rip that off and use that to max our armor, which we can't quite manage, and because we do have 100 armor on each leg, I'm going to do something a little unusual. I'm going to rip the armor off the legs. Now, I'll show you why. Oh, ATM ammo is going to come off. So the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to show you this here, heavy small lasers, clan heavy small lasers. So clan quirks give you +1 accuracy with ranged weapons. Micropulses give you ignoring 6 pips, so on something with 6 pips up, this effectively gives you a +13 to hit, which is crazy. However, the bonus from the micropulse is lost on slower targets, so if something was sitting still, you just get a standard +1 to hit. Oh, well, effective, right? You could argue you still get that effective +1 to hit on something with 6 evasion pips, it's just that it's cancelled out by the negative from the evasion pips in the first place. The heavy small lasers instead actually give you a -3 accuracy to hit, so including the clan quirk, that's a -2 total. They only ignore 3 evasion pips as well, not 6, so they're far worse for actually finding their target. On the other hand, they deal twice as much damage, and they do generate a lot more heat. I think something like 4 times as much heat at the same tonnage. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this thing from a dedicated light killer to something that can actually handle light mechs and medium mechs. Potentially not if the light mech is really scooting really quickly or if it jumps really far, but it needs to have more punch because at the sort of skull ratings that we're doing, we're only rarely going to see even medium mechs. We're usually going to see heavies, we're usually going to see assault rated mechs, and it's just not enough firepower with these micropulses. So I only have 6 of the heavy smalls, and I wouldn't put more of them on here anyway. You'll see why in a second. But basically what it comes down to is heat management. So let's stack on 3 of these on each side. A bit more of a symmetrical build just to keep things, as even as we can. And there is something else that I'm looking for here, and that would be a gyro. So I have the wrong gyro. I don't have the gyro I'm looking for. There are some that you can get that actually give you 1 higher evasion per movement, which is the less important thing, but also increase your maximum evasion pips from movement. I think the default is 8, so we'd reach that at something like 12 movement, so we effectively will have either 7 or 8 if we do our full move or sprint. About the same, actually. But the other thing that we're going to do with that last free ton, we have two options. Right now we're shooting at 72, sorry, shooting 78, sinking 72. What I could do is I could put a supercharger on here, and now we're shooting at 90 heat and we're only sinking 72. That means in 2 turns we'll push right up to our red line, and that's on a good biome, right? So on a hot biome, we're going to get really close to the red line pretty much immediately. Now, here's the reason for the trade-off. The reason for the trade-off is now with that supercharger, we look down here at movement, we can move for 16, which is farther than we can sprint. Moving for 16 is just absolutely absurd, and I really want to see it happen. Otherwise, something that you might consider with this is giving it some ECM, maybe cooling it a little bit more, although I think at that point it would be a little bit overcooled. Or, you could also consider something like a rangefinder. Increase your base sight distance on what's effectively a scout mech at this point. Yeah, so things like that. If I had a TTS port, but I don't think these count as support, not laser, for their fire. Another thing would be, to use that ton for Guardian ECM, as I said, electronic countermeasures. That +1 defense stacked on top of 8 evasion pips would give whoever's shooting at us, oh, I don't know, negative 107, sorry, not 170, negative 17 to their hit roll, which is, that's taking a 90% accuracy shot and tanking it down to single-digit % chances to hit. Some of that will hit, mostly from LRMs, mostly from, those high volume of fire weapons, more than anything else. But I don't think we benefit from the radius here. So the 150 meter radius ECM field, nothing is really going to be moving with this mech that consistently. It will go too quickly. So I don't really think the Guardian ECM is worth it. On the other hand, we could have gone for a mask, due to our sprint, what we did to our walk. And the other thing about that is they both cause 15% increased heat generation, but sprints cause more heat generation to begin with anyway. So if I'm sprinting, even if I'm sprinting farther and I'm also burning hotter because of my attack, I'm not going to be sprinting as often. I'm going to be back relying on that 11 movement instead of persistently moving at 16, never really having to sprint, never getting the additional heat from sprinting, and instead just being able to build and sink heat based off our alpha strikes. So I think we're going to give this a try. If you guys were around last week for the mech highlight we did on the Osprey, you will have hopefully seen by now that Osprey design doing absolutely amazing work on the battlefield, and hopefully this one will live up to that as well, although we might have to go into something like duels. This might become a dedicated dueling mech for mediums, although it's pretty light tonnage for that, and we could potentially run into something like, say, a Wolverine, an up-armored Wolverine like the Quarantine hero mech version, which we'd have a hard time getting through its armor, even with the number of heavy smalls that we do have on this mech. But I think that'll do it for now. We'll go ahead and validate this, and we'll get it on the field. So thank you all for hanging around, and we'll see you again real soon.